So, I guess I need to wait a little bit. See what's happening here. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah. Hello. So, I have no clue what happened here. Yeah, we're live. Stupid YouTube. So, I guess share this out if you can. That was really strange. This is the first time I've tried to schedule a live, however. And, you know, things things with 4 letters that start with S. Hi, Nancy. Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Chubby. Hi, Betty. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Brenda. Who have I missed? Beth Ellen. Hello. Thanks, Jeff. Hey, Stephen. Maybe I'll have to just try to set up a scheduled private live and experiment and see what happened. That really is unfortunate. I even switched to the Wi-Fi instead of the cellular mobile, and it still would not let me start it. It kept coming up with unable to connect. So I would try again, and it would be unable to connect. So basically, I had to end the stream. Let's get things here a little more centered. Let me see if that's in focus, if I can get that to focus a little better. Looks fine to me. How does that look for you? Sound appears to be good. I could turn up my other phone to see we could have a nice echo effect, or we could just do that weird little anyway, enough of that. So while people are still filtering in, we may already have the max number of people that I'm going to get, but here is today's harvest. Strawberries. That's a pretty big bowl, so not like I already have twice that many in the refrigerator. Also, a new arrival today. Ooh, look at that. It's like, get the Star Wars entrance in here. Make your own pew pew noises. So, I mean, I could open that too, but maybe not. I don't want to really overlap Karen's live tonight, so let's get on with what we're here for. As the other thumbnail showed, we have 5 opals. I might only get to 2 or 3 of these. But here's our first victim. Look at this beautiful Lambina rough opal. Plenty of green in there, some blue, a little bit of orange and yellow. Now this piece weighs 3.75 carats. How do I know? Well, it's because the sheet told me so. It's 14 by 8 by 7 millimeters in size. And I think we'll start out with the 600 grit sintered diamond burr, and we'll take off all the little crusties, rough it out a bit in shape. These might all be freeform shapes. That remains to be seen, however. And maybe you'll see that here live. All right. You're under a flood advisory. Holy crap. Good thing you have that pool, right? Hi, Patricia. Yeah, actually, I think this will honor Stephen. It may not be super bright, but it's going to have some good flash in it, I bet. Let's actually wear a mask this time and start with our 600 grit sintered diamond burr. Not to be confused with Raymond Burr, and if you get that reference, you're old. I bet Chubby gets that reference. All right, let's start it up. Yeah, okay. Bonus points if you know what show Raymond Burr was in, or at least his most popular show. That is correct. It is Ironside. Give it time, Stephen. You're going to get there with luck. Oh man, maybe I should have cleaned my fingernails. Look at that. How embarrassing. I remember I used to give Justin crap about dirty fingernails, and here I am with dirty fingernails. Ooh, can you see the color? Oh, that's right. I forgot Perry Mason. Maybe he is more famous for Perry Mason. I think Perry Mason was a bit before my time. Have fun. Oh my God, we're all alone. So it's getting pretty warm in here. No, the clothes are staying on, so don't get excited. Anyway, so we're gotten most of this stuff off. A lot of nice color coming in through there, but that shape is a bit odd, so nice big groove right there. Normally I take a long time to figure out what I'm going to do, so being live kind of makes it a little more nerve-wracking. There's more pressure. Yeah, Bethel, and this is a great way to do it for me because I don't think holding on to a one of those flex shafts would really be fun, especially trying to do that and hold this and manipulate everything. This is completely the lazy man's method. Yeah, I don't like the flex shaft. I bought one and tried it, and this Dremel, being older, was struggling to run it. And since I had this camera tripod and the nice clamp, whatever you'd like to call that, I set it up like this, and it works quite well for me. Welcome in, Pistachio Bison. So we have all this dead potch up here on top of this greenish bar. I think I will try to bring that down. It's a shame there's so much lag between the cutting and what I'm seeing on my other phone. Or I could almost try to just watch this phone and try to cut that way. That would be amusing. And probably tragic. Alright, color's starting to come through a little bit. Oh, I hope they turn out, Stephen. Hello, Desiree. It's really hard to read chat and concentrate on this. Honestly, I don't know how Justin Thomas does that, but he is much better at cutting opal than I am, so. Oh, I wish that yellow was all over this stone. So we're just getting down to where we can see the color through that top layer of kind of translucent potch. I really like that. I am very, very tempted. If it was thicker, I could slice that off, but I think we're just going to have to make this a strange little wonky freeform shape. And no shame in that. Hi, Les. Yeah, I finally made it live. My scheduled live would not connect for whatever strange reason. So we had to start a different live. Hey, ablutions. I haven't cut a lot of lambina, so I can't say whether or not it's all bad. All right, just taking a quick break to check things out with the loop. I also have my handy dandy flashlight, which I made this wonderful headband. Basically just some old shorts I cut the cuff off of, and it works quite well. Although the batteries might be dying in this. Still need to take that little bit of a gouge out. Now, this is not really a thin color bar, but when I'm working, I like to stop before I actually start hitting the color and then move on to the next grit. That way, when you start getting to thin color bars, you're less likely to burn right through them. So it's going to be a strange little beast, but I think we can move to the next phase, which will be the 280 grit Nova Burr. Let's do the barrel-shaped one. Hey, Sister Mary, thanks for coming in. And don't forget these silly little emojis in the sidebar. I have no clue how well that helps engagement, but they got to be there for a reason, right? Six fossil specimens. Very nice, Nancy. I bet that was a lot of fun. Hello, D-Tim. Remember to hit that like. Subscribing and sharing is optional, but welcome. A little bit more on that, I think. This color is pretty watery, so I'm not sure how much it's going to matter. There's the main event right there. I hope you can still hear me okay. I realize I'm failing to talk very loudly at times, and having the mask certainly will muffle. This is Australian opal from the Lambina fields. This is the first of 5 pieces that was gifted to me by a person who will remain anonymous. Honestly, if I was worried about an actual traditional shape, I might be able to get an oval and just remove all the bottom here. But that's no fun. We like color. Let me check this out really close here for a second. Yeah, that stuff Claude has looks pretty good, and I should stop buying stuff at other sales and save up to get some the next time he has a sale. But honestly, I have so much stuff to cut that at the rate I'm currently cutting it, it'll take me a long time to even come close to running out. Ooh, okay, we got a tiny bit of that gouge left. Not sure you're going to be able to see it, but it is right up here in this end towards the middle. So a little bit of extra time here on this 280 bullet point. Should get that out in no problem. Are we not entertained? Don't make me sing. I don't really want to be like Jerry. right, that's out. A little bit more to try to get out the faceting that I see in there. That might be enough. One second here, Elizabeth. Well, I think we've gotten as much as we can off of that 280 grit. So let us move up to the 600 now. Ready for the motion sickness. Okay, this is a Manfrotto photography tripod. Never mind the mess on the floor. And it came with this clamp, which I have. You can see all that lovely rock dust. Don't lick that. So I've clamped the Dremel in there. It's secure. I can move it into several different positions, but basically I have it tilted just a bit, and that works really good for me, and it frees up my hands. What did I beat you to there, Stephen? Oh, wicked. Yeah. I honestly should take this out and spray it off with the hose. Nice thing about the 600 is it's pretty slow removing material. It will remove material at a decent pace, but it's not so quick that you'll blink and go, oh, well, there went all the color. This one had some kind of wacky color bars in it to begin with, so. And the first flyaway of the night. Luckily, it landed in the trough. Not sure how much better this will improve. I have plenty of thickness on that side, but we're coming up on the end of it there, so leave that side alone and come down more on this side. It should be all right. My, how time flies when you're having fun. It's already 40 minutes into this. All right, I think I'm going to set this one aside for now. We'll dry it out and get a nice close look after this. Okay, I lied. I saw one divot I want to take care of here. Maybe 2 divots. I know you're probably all itching to see these completed during a live, but time's a wasting, and I think we should move on. But first, any guesses? Started at 3.75. I'm thinking I probably took a carat off. Ooh, so close, so close. 2.65. And it is now at about 10.8 by 6.6 by 6 millimeters. All right. Good job, good job. Since I'm the only one that's going to be praising myself at this point. Let's move it back into position. Let's see. Chubby had a question. Sorry to watch and run, but shower and supper are needed. Will you leave running through? Well, this live will certainly be up and available once it's done processing. I don't plan to overlap Karen too long because I know most people would probably rather watch her lives, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, this next piece is 3.9 carats, 13.8 by 8.8 by 7 millimeters. And it has some weird crusty bits and a little crevice there. And lots of dirt, but ooh-wee, look at that. Ooh-wee. Rick, I tell you what. So, obviously the first step is to clean things up. And you can see that cloudy patch there at the middle. But if that color runs deep enough, maybe this will be another good stone that could actually be not freeform. Hi, Cami Sue. It's all right. Better late than never. Oh, nice green flash going on there. Not sure if you can see that, but I can see that. Hello, Sir Oxalot. Thanks for coming in. I don't know if any of you follow Sir Oxalot, but you should check out his channel. He does lives 3 times a week. 2 or 3 times. And he cuts a lot of great stuff. And you're what, up to 3,500 subscribers already? It's kind of why I'm doing lives, because I've watched your channel growth and I'm thinking that 1 subscriber a day or less just isn't really going to cut it. And if you're trying to get watch hours off of videos and shorts, yeah, that's a tough hill to climb. Basically, my goal here is to show people that you can get into cutting opal at a reasonable cost. Now, this tripod that I'm using to hold the Dremel is free, as it used to belong to my brother. I like that nice little dark core there, but that's probably not going to last. Got a nice red flash going on this end. Lots of dead potch here at the top. But it doesn't look like I have to go down too much further to get to some color. Anyway, the sintered diamond bits were $14 a piece. I believe the Novas were around 9 or 10 when I bought them. So my first batch of burrs that I bought was right around $100. The Dremel is a 15-year-old piece that I bought, and that whole set cost $50 to $70, I forget exactly. And then pretty much everything else that I have was homemade, so a couple $100 will get you into the hobby. Well, might be significantly more now. I won't make mention of reasons why, but we all know why. Come on out, sand. Come on out. Anyway, my point of all the discussion here I was having is that if I can cut opal, you should be able to cut opal too. It's not terribly difficult. It does take some practice dealing with how this stuff likes to face and cut, and I'm certainly no expert. I definitely can use a lot more practice in learning how to face this stuff. But just start out with cheap rough. Don't get carried away cutting black opals on your fifth stone. There is a story behind that. Perhaps leave that for another day. Let's get a closer look. Yeah, see, actually, Stephen, that is correct. I started out with sandpaper and a knife honing block because I didn't want to wait for the bits to show up. So the first couple opals I did that way, and as a beginner, it was so slow, so very, very slow. Getting to some nice color there. Little bit more off of this top part. Yeah, I think the very first stone I cut was like 2 weeks. And the problem is, while sandpaper is perfectly fine and does a great job, despite it being a more laborious process, I kept having problems with cross-contamination. So I'd get down to like the 800 grit paper and I'd work on it, and then I'd notice all these scratches. And that was really frustrating. It is so much easier to cut with bits and burrs. Whoa, flyaway number 2, for anyone keeping track. Man, this isn't nearly as fun. I can't watch the chat and participate. How long does a diamond bit last? Okay, now, these bits are the original bits that I bought back in, well, they arrived mid-January 2022. So these bits are all 4 years old. And honestly, see, that one's rusty. This one was actually left in the collet, and I didn't have the drip system pushed back, so it dripped over time and rusted it, but that's no big deal. It still works. So we have 200 and, well, this is 292 that I'm working on right now. So as long as you're not running them hot and dry, they will last a long, long time. Especially working tiny little rocks like these. All right, so I have this denser, it's kind of a water bar color there, but I mean, it's got the little dark backing. But I also have color at the top, which is also kind of watery. So what do you think? I think I need to go deeper on this one and probably touch that little arch of kind of wispy potch right there that divides the two layers. because even though it is a watery bar, it's still got some nice color on it. Yeah, so, we're talking, I'll have to do a video with the bits I own, but I have at least 2 of every grit from like 80 up to 600. And I actually did order a few more back at the beginning of, or at the end of 2024, because I knew price hikes were coming. So I have more bits than I need. Maybe at some point I will actually have a giveaway for that for people that are into dremeling. But $100 in bits will buy you a lot of bits. I would recommend probably starting with these more rounded barrel shapes. They will last longer simply because they're thicker. But I also have ball shapes for carving smaller spaces. And there are varying sizes of those. I have this very giant one. I believe that is the 80 grit. But, I get like these cone-shaped, bullet-shaped, and then the rounded barrels work really well. So it's probably good to have a variety of those. Let me see if I can find... Oh, there's... Okay. They also have these barrels that have a square tip. And each one has a use, certainly. But you could get the set of those. Let's see, what is that? 14 times you'd need at least 6. So yeah, you'd be looking at 80 bucks, 90 bucks for those. And then for each type of Nova burr, I bought a bullet and a barrel. And I have actually gone through the bullet ones. These are the original ones, and I got probably through 150-ish stones on both of these, and they're still useful. They just don't get quite the usage of these other ones. And with that, I think we're done with that 600. Yes, go check out Suva Lapidary's website. I haven't for a while. I hope they still have the variety of burrs and bits that they had when I first ordered, because there's lots of different diameters and shapes available. And I picked what I figured would be the most usable for opal cutting. Now, if you're into carving stuff, you probably would want the finer bits. Again, I am not the expert. I am very much a novice. And while many people say that I'm pretty good at this, I am just a novice. So think of how good I'll be after I've cut a few thousand stones. I mean, hopefully I'll have some wheels before then. These Dremel tips aren't very large, so they kind of limit how big a stone I can make. I should be able to adapt though and start making larger sizes eventually. But a typical wheel is like twice that wide, I think. All right, tiny bit of sand left, but some very nice color in there. I think coming down is the right thing to do, even though that does remove the height of this piece. And I'm really, I don't know. I mean, I love that color, but that weird shape is kind of bringing me down. Thanks, Stephen. Yes, Suva Lapidary. SUVA. And of course, you should be able to spell lapidary. Just Google search or whatever search engine you use, Suva. It should come up. They sell Diamond Pacific bits and burrs, and I know some people have issues with their wheels. Dave swears by them, and so do I. At least the bits. All right, a tiny bit of sand up here in this tip. And then this tiny bit of sand on the bottom. Again, I apologize if I'm missing questions here. Okay, 6 years on a wheel. Now that sounds really good. Are they the centered, I would assume? Well, that sucks that they actually stopped making them. All right, so it appears that the sand is out of the top, not quite out of the bottom yet. I do like that color though. I think we have a little bit more to go on the top, though, still. Well, $100 for a wheel that's going to last you 5 or 6 years. You know, that's like $1.25 a month. How many stones do you estimate you've cut with that? All right, Elizabeth, thanks for dropping by. Definitely get some sleep. Personally, I had a really hard time getting to sleep last night. And part of that I'm going to blame with my YouTube addiction. But I was up till 4 o'clock in the morning and then slept in till past 10. Normally, I try to get to bed around midnight and get up around 8. So sleep is essential. But I've noticed as I get older, sleep is more difficult. True, Sir Rocks. Softer material will let them last longer. I imagine if you're cutting the jaspers and petrified woods and other things like garnets, probably going to wear those up pretty fast. All right, that's starting to get some nice color going. What do you think? A little bit more or move on to that 600? Whoa, hello. Earthquake. All right, well, I need Kyle's compressed air blower. That really looks nice. Thank you, mysterious benefactor. This is a pretty cool piece. Hey, Techno Jock, welcome in. How's it going? Let's go to the 600 barrel. As long as I don't finish these, I can always go back and do some more work if I'm trying to get a more accurate shape. But I notice it's now 6:45, and I've only done 2 stones. I mean, I can go on as long as I want. My son is off in town hanging out with his friends and probably won't be back until well after 9. And I'm a big boy. I don't have a bedtime. However, the phone that's streaming this will be the limiting factor. So, hindsight, etc., etc. If I'd started from this side, and I guess I could still do it, I could cut a cushion shape with that color facing. Decisions. Or I could just leave it as it is. Not really something that's easily set, but does every opal need to be set? Aren't they just fun to hold and look at? What do you think? If I was streaming from a computer, I could pull up a poll and we could do freeform, traditional cab, or choice C, hammer. Hammer time. No, we'll never do that. Yeah, there is some red coming up in through there. This is a fairly translucent little stone, though. Oh, dear Lord. Too bright, too bright. So there doesn't really appear to be any other inclusions inside of this. Techno Jock wants a setting. Stephen wants a hammer. I'll give you a hammer, Stephen. Well, if you want to buy this, I will bust it up for you. What do you think? 40 bucks? I suck at valuing opals. Oh, Steven's game for that. I think we're good with this one. I think we're going to leave it for now. 1 second, please. There we go. You guys probably recognize that box. So, for the people on the live only, a limited sneak peek at the Lapidary Dave opal that he gifted me back in last August. All right. Are you ready? Should I give you just the side profile? Are you worthy? Yeah, that's enough. I need to finish the video for that, but it is finally done. Yes, Desiree, that is a gnome. And Kyle at World of Rockhounds, I'm not sure if he still ships them out. He used to. But I have like 4 of them. And they're pretty cool. All right. So, all right, I'll show you the bottom. All right. And honestly, I think the bottom is probably as good, if not better, than the top. But man, these sides are killer. Here we go. Behold. All right, that's enough. I don't want to get ahead of myself. That's the reveal of the night. As much as these other stones are nice. All right, now 293 coming up is 3.55 carats, 16.2 by 9 by 4.2 millimeters. And of the stones, this one would be most obvious to be an oval or maybe a marquee. You can see some green in there, little bits of red, but also this nice crack right there. And it seems to be running off to the side. Ooh, hey, got some yellow, got some blue. The color doesn't really seem to be too hot towards this end. But let's get rid of all the crusties and go around the edge a bit. No, you're quite welcome, Desiree. Dave gifted me that opal, and when I first saw it, and trust me, I have probably half an hour of video and pictures just in the rough state. It was an amazing piece. And I wasn't quite sure how it was going to cut. Maybe I could have cut it differently. But it still came out most excellently. And for a free opal, that's probably the second best one I've cut. It might be the first. I do have a meant-to-be opal that I bought on a rough parcel way back when I first started, and I held on to it for a while. Ultimately, I cut it, and it's a really very nice stone. And I had no clue that it was meant to be because, you know, I'm kind of a clueless novice. But when I met Justin in Denver at the Denver Gem Show, I took a bunch of opals for him to look at and kind of value so I'd have a baseline. And he told me it was meant to be, and I was like, really? That's cool. Because everybody likes to diss meant to be, and you know, it is a tough stone to cut. Sometimes the color bars are far more colorful from the side than facing. They're prone to cracks. And it's just a harder opal material, honestly. But I did get a winner. Alrighty. And it looks like the majority of the ugly stuff is off. Ooh, nice green and yellow. A little bit of blue. Hmm. All right, there is some color there. That's hopeful, but this side seems to be pretty dead. So I can make this an oval. It's just not going to have lots of color throughout the entire stone. Also, it's fairly clear. I'll have to look at it a little closer, but there may not be a whole lot in the way of inclusions. I just have to hope there are no cracks. Hmm. Decisions. I think that it was fated to be faced from this side, and this side to be all flat. And I will lose a little bit of this color here at this end as I round it out. But I say let's go for it. All right, it's coming up on 7, so if people bail to go watch Ozone Fine Arts, I'm good with that. I'll be there eventually. Tonight, they're looking at sunstones, which are marvelous in their own rights. What do you mean there? I do have one photograph with Justin from that trip to Denver. So you know, you could hunt through his social if you really, really, really are desperate to see me. I wouldn't waste the time, though. All right, this part's going to be a little bit of a trick. I may want to wait and dop this to actually finish this one. I mean, I think I can make it work. It's going to have some color, not huge amounts of color, mind you, but nice little flash on the back. Once again, the opal is proving me to be a liar. And maybe doming from this side would have been the better idea, but if I round it off to dome it, I will certainly be taking some of that yellow off there. Whereas if I leave it flat, at least it remains. I think we need to switch over to the 280 grit burr. Hi, Jessica. Welcome in. Oh, Stephen. So you've been stalking me for a long time, I guess, right? This is gonna be awfully thin on the sides. Oh well. Could always glue it to backing and make it into a doublet. In fact, that might be the preferable thing to do. Because then I would get that nice contrast. Look at that. Oh, that's beautiful. Too bad it's not thicker that way. Oh, nice aqua. It's the beautiful thing about opals, you never know. Okay, see, this crack could destroy the whole thing for me. All right, it's time to put that one away. That needs much closer inspections. Okay, we have 44% charge on the phone. What do you say? Another rock, everybody? You can never get enough opal, I know. All right, stone number 294 is 3.35 carats, 13 by 9 by 7.3 millimeters. And it's got that nice greenish sort of potch with some green color going on. You can see where it thins out. There's some beautiful blue, but that will all disappear. This is another stone that could actually be oval because it's got a decent shape for it. Could end up having a decent dome as well if things work out. My other name. You mean my real name, don't you? right, we start the Justin way and clean up the edges. Now, I hate to grind you off, Blue, but there's simply no reason to keep you. And there wasn't enough to slice. Gotta tell you, if you're looking to learn how to cut opals, Justin's channel is absolutely one of the best because he really does explain everything he's doing, and he does not care that it pisses other people off. And yeah, I should probably not use that harsh language, but old timers are dying off and they're not sharing their knowledge, so somebody has to keep it alive. However, if you're looking for someone that does Dremel cutting, I mean, I do okay. I'm not as much into the explaining every part of the process, and maybe someday I will. But Roy's Rocks does a really good job. He cuts Ethiopian and Australian opal. He does doublets. He has a lot of great videos on the process. He also sells burrs that he made. Well, he had a Chinese company make them. And he also has these sandpaper burrs, which look pretty intriguing, mostly because they're very cheap. And if you're just starting, it might be worth checking those out because, you know, they wear out fairly quickly, but they are cheap. So you'd be spending a lot less money entering the hobby just to see if you want to keep doing it. Because it would be a shame to spend a few $100 and then give up after like 5 or 6 stones. Although why you would give up is beyond me. This is fairly relaxing and therapeutic, and yes, it takes dexterity. But that's what dop sticks are for, right? Uh-oh. Not sure if you can hear that car alarm. All right, there's color bars in there that are kind of at an angle. So decisions. I like that blue. But yeah, dop sticks really help. It gives me a lot more control, especially on the smaller stones, and prevents them from flying all over the place. Oh boy. All right, so everything down here is pretty much useless, which means it would be decent for a base, but then I'm looking at this weird triangular shape, which might be a weird dome. Well, it cost me nothing, so. Oh, you know what? It's been over 2 hours. I think it's time to drink something. I turned off the AC so that wouldn't come on and kind of disturb the background noise. Making cabs with weird rocks. I do have a lot of Wello opals that I need to cut. The only problem is I despise putting them on dopsticks because I really, really suck at getting them off. I have chipped so many of those. Chrysocolla. Okay, I have not cut that. I do have agates I need to start cutting. This box that I have near me is some stuff that I bought from Dave during his Dave and Tim sale. And it has Howardite jasper, which is really wild stuff. And I don't really want to spoil anything else. Otherwise, what's the purpose of watching an unboxing video? Oh, speak of the devil, the air conditioner finally comes on. So, this little wonky section right here is going to force me to make the stone a little smaller. Shouldn't be a huge problem. I could just leave it like that. It will probably set. It would just look terrible, in my opinion. So flyaway number 3. That one landed in the second bin. All right, well, the bottom is still a bit uneven. That tone will come down a little bit. It may come down into this second bar because that's actually the brighter section. I think I'm going to move on, do a little work with the 280. Maybe wrapping this up soon. 2 hours seems to be fairly optimal for a live for me. Number 4. This is where dopping comes in handy. Number 5. At least it stayed on the table this time. All right, so I need to get that bit of sand out. Definitely need to work on evening that out a little bit more. Because that's still kind of a strange little shape there, not quite flat on the bottom yet. But it's coming through. Maybe not the most colorful of the night, but still very pretty. So, you've been here 2 hours and 20-ish minutes. I appreciate everyone for coming by. And honestly, I need to eat. One thing I did not do is weigh these other ones up. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, the second one is 1.75 carats. So I've lost pretty much 2 carats out of that one. And the third one, 2.9 carats. And that started as 3.55, so that's only 0.6 carats. And this fourth one is down to 1.95, which means I've lost 1.4 carats on that. still beautiful little bits that should come out very nicely once they're all finished and polished. The second piece currently stands at, it looks like 8. All right, 8.2 by 8 by 4.1 millimeters. The third piece is 15 by 7 by 3.8. And this last piece is looking like 10.2 by 5.1, or rather 5.5 by 5.1. So, not bad for a couple hours, considering when I started this little journey, stones were taking me days and days to do. But I also had spent a lot of time looking at things in between stages, because that's just what I do. So maybe I'll have another live stream next week. Depends upon the schedule of my son. And I do have other opals to cut, but maybe I'll cut something different. And just to give you a comparison, as nice as those opals were, they ain't nothing compared to this one. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you all at other lives. I guess Kyle is probably live tomorrow. So have a good evening, and until next time.